Hello YouTube, my name is Jack. Welcome back to yet another tier list. This is the final installment of the tier lists for Demons. I have covered all the other Demons, Nurgle, Undivided, Khorne, Slaanesh, etc. All of those are in other videos. You can go check them out. You can go check them out in the cards in the top right hand corner of the screen. Also, you can go check out the video I did of my competitive 75% win rate Khorne and Nurgle army over there as well. I cover all of the different possibilities and what I use them for and how I would win a tournament with Demons as well. Today we're covering all of the Tzeentch units in this tier list. Let me know what you would put where, and if you want to pause the video and tell me what you would put where now, then please do so. And afterwards, let me know what changes you would make. Also, go join our Discord, the first link in the description. That's entirely free. You can join it down there and leave your opinions in there as well. Don't forget to become a member. It's only $4 Australian a month, and it really does help me out, so that would be awesome. So first up, we have Kairos Fateweaver. I'm going to put him at A. I think A is fair. He is a decent graded demon. He has a fair bit of shooting, a lot of indirect, and in a Tzeentch list, he synergizes quite well. Got a lot of useful abilities, not too expensive. I think A is good. If I was looking to make his pure Tzeentch army, I would put him in the list for sure. Lord of Change, S tier. Only with the relic, which you would always take on a Lord of Change as well. Any other Lords of Change, I'd put them at maybe B tier. I think with the relic, the enhancement, you can get him up to S tier. He's definitely an auto include in any Tzeentch list. He is also used in many other lists, irrespective of them just being Tzeentch or not. He's a very good unit. I think he packs a fair amount of punch. He's just not particularly survivable, and is just good at holding points, staying back, and dealing a lot of damage at range. So he's not so bad. I'd say S tier is perfectly fine for him. He's an auto include in any Tzeentch list. The Fate Skimmer, I'm going to put at B tier. I think he's a little bit on the expensive side, but does give a lot of buffs to a big block of Screamers and has some useful abilities. I don't think it's too bad, but I don't think it's too good. I'm kind of just like middle of the road with it. I'd like to see his points come down to boost him up to maybe an A or S tier unit so we can get everything a bit more balanced with that, but at the moment I think middle of the road is fine for the Fate Skimmer. Now the Change Caster I'm going to put at C tier. I think one change to the Change Caster, hilarious, to make him into an S tier unit or even an A tier unit would just be to change his ability where he shoots a unit and then causes a battle shock test. If this was to any unit in the game, not just infantry, that would be amazing. At the moment, he's a bit too niche, doesn't really buff pink horrors in a very good way, and also pink horrors themselves are not particularly great, so he's just relegated to the C tier. I think he's just a small little unit for doing actions and stuff at the moment, nothing really amazing, as well as the fact that he can blow himself up and die, which is a little bit stupid. I think if he had 4 wounds, I'd be a lot better with him, and maybe put him in B tier, but for the moment, C tier. Next up, we have the Flux Master, and I kind of thought, why would you have a Flux Master in a list at first? But A tier is where he belongs. He gives a lot of movement abilities to the pink horrors because he moves quite fast himself, so you can kind of have him screen a corner and then you can have him fly over the unit still as part of the pink horror unit, and then lead the rest of them along the board, so you can do things like move to do actions or screen out zones and things like that. He makes them -1 to hit, which does help with them not being one shot, so they can eventually split. He has a little bit of shooting, is really good for actions as well. He's really fast. You can run him on his own and do actions with him as a little individual character, and he's just not bad. I think he's a decent unit for 60 points. I think he belongs in A tier. Next up, we have the Changeling. Also A tier. I think the Changeling is really, really good. I think they're a little bit too expensive at 90 points, but causing a lot of battle shock tests, really being a nuisance, can take a flank of the board purely on its own and really deal some damage. The Flamer is sometimes unexpected in how much damage it can really output, and also lone operative character. It can turn off shooting for a big unit if you're really lucky. It's just a good unit all round. If I was going to take a Tzeentch army, I definitely would put the Changeling in. I think to make him S tier, I'd bring him down about 10, maybe 15 points, and then he would be an auto include. But at this point in time, I'd say he's about an A tier. Blue Scribes. Also A tier, especially when you're running units outside of Demons. If you're allying things, the blue scribes are definitely the way to go. They are just a really, really helpful unit. They do a lot of utility work for your army, and they're really cheap. Fast for actions, another little lone operative character. It's funny that Tzeentch actually got 2 of those, so weird, but there you go. And I think that A tier is where the blue scribes belong. They're a really good unit. If I was going to be playing Tzeentch, I'd probably invest in the blue scribes, or maybe the Changeling, one or the other, maybe not both, but they're both good choices, so there you have it, A tier. The Exalted Flamer, C tier. Not doing particularly well at this point in time. You can run multiple of him. You don't even need to attach him to the flamers as well. You can just run him around on his own. But the amount of shooting that he has is a little bit lackluster. I feel like the shooting from him, the big bolt, I think the blue fire, needs to be a lot stronger. I think I would make it comparable to a haywire cannon or a prismatic cannon, something like that from a Voidweaver. I'd like to see their abilities change at least a little bit. At the moment, they're not particularly useful, and maybe giving +1 to wound to flamers at range, or +1 AP, something like that would be really handy, and then would make them a much better unit. At this point in time, not a great character. C tier is where they belong. Now, sadly, Pink Horrors, also C tier. Not great. I've really tried to use them in some lists, but for the troop choice of the Tzeentch army, they are just not holding up to scratch. They're a little bit too expensive. They can be one-shot really easily by competitive players, which means their split mechanic is almost useless, and they also have no damage at all, literally 0 damage in melee, and their shooting is very, very low. I think that I would like to see the pink fire from the shooting go up to maybe like strength 5 and AP 2. I think that would be worthy of their cost. At this point in time, they just don't deal any damage. They're paying a lot of points in their price for the split mechanic, which doesn't always work. So unfortunately, out of all the troops, these I think are the worst, and they're going to go into C tier. And by worst troops, I meant right above the other horror unit, the Blue Horrors, D tier. Really, really bad. I think that they are probably one of, if not the worst unit in the entire Demon Codex, except for maybe Be'lakor or the Feculent Nalmor. They are just useless. I mean, they do infiltrate, they are a troop choice, they can do actions, and they do have that split mechanic as well. They're a really good utility unit, and they also have a fun little mechanic for battle shock, affecting battle shock at -1. Really handy. However, they are literally more than double the cost that you should be paying for them. I think 60 points would be more than fair for a unit of Blue Horrors that basically die to anything in one shot. The best thing that they can do is screen and do actions. Why would I pay for them when I can do the same thing with a unit of Nurglings, which are now 40 points. They've gone up from 35. I think the 2 things that these units suffer from is being allied into other armies. At this point in time, allies can take them too easily, which means they raise the price of them, and that's why demon players suffer for taking these blue scribes. I think if there were 125 points for any other army, that would be fair, and then for us, if they were 60 points, I think that they would be an auto-include, S tier. Even something like 75 points, I think I would still run at least 1 unit, but 60 points sounds really fair to me. I don't think that I would struggle to kill them in competitive play. They don't deal any damage, so they're not a worry to anyone. They're just there for an action and an infiltrating screen, so 60 points sounds quite fair. Screamers of Tzeentch, I'm going to put them at B tier. I think that they have some fun synergies with the Fate Skimmer. You can really put them in a big blob, and you can buff them up and deal a ton of damage, and they're also somewhat resilient. You'd be surprised at the amount of damage that these guys can output. Their biggest problem is that they are hitting on 4s, which does suck. If something's -1 to hit melee, you are going to be hitting on 5s, which is terrible. I would like to see their ability change from mortal wound output, which is really low anyway, to maybe +1 to hit on charge, so that they hit on 3s at least when they charge. That would be fantastic. At this point in time, they can be used in that blob, or they can be used for actions and screens and things like that. They're really hard to kill, and they're quite cheap as well. So a B tier, middle of the road, not too bad. Flamers, we're going to put at C tier. Flamers, just not particularly that great. They don't deal any damage. If the battle shock mechanic in Demons was an easier feat to pull off, then these guys would be quite good, because you could do Draft of Terror with a full squad of them in the shooting phase for rerolling all wounds, ignoring any of your stratagems because you're battle shocked, and also an additional AP and ignoring cover. These guys would really pop off, but without that battle shock mechanic, they just don't deal any damage. They're too expensive for what they do. They are fairly resilient with 3 wounds of pop and a 4+ vulnerable, but too expensive, so C tier. And last but not least, we have the Burning Chariot. It is rubbish. I would put it lower than D tier if I could. It's 115 points. It's relatively easy to kill. It has honestly no shooting at all, and its ability is to remove cover, shooting only, of course, for the rest of your army, which I feel like is just not needed. The only shooting that you're going to be running in Demons is generally things like Flamers from Great and Clean Ones, Scarbrand, Bloodthirsters, Rotigus, even Lords of Change or whatever. A lot of things already ignore cover because they are torrent weapons, and they also have ignores cover on their abilities, which means why would you ever need to ignore cover with a Burning Chariot? The best things that they can buff are Pink Horrors, which don't deal any damage in shooting anyway, and probably just other Burning Chariots. So if their ability changed to, for example, cause a battle shock test, same as a Skull Cannon, and they were similar to like a Voidweaver from Eldar, they were a bit squishier, they were a bit faster, or you could synergize them well with a Tzeentch army, then I would take them a lot more often. But at the moment, really expensive. They're 10 points more than a Skull Cannon, they do less damage in melee, and they're easier to kill. The only thing they have going for them is speed, and they're just not good. If they were to change their damage output at range, maybe to something a lot more damaging, so you could have some high damage firepower from small little units that scoot around the edges of the table, I think they'd be really good. But at the moment, D tier. Very bad. And that was what I thought of the Tzeentch Demon Army. If you have any changes, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you would do differently. Of course, do all the things down there, like, subscribe, become a member today. It's only $4 Australian a month, and it really, really does help. Consider doing that. And also go check out our Discord, first link in the description. It's entirely free. I'd love to have a chat with you down there as well. And otherwise, I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.